Hey, Nashville, welcome back to the podcast brought to you by the Optimized You Studio. Our sponsors today are Navy, Social Indoor, and Stat Wellness. I am your host, Abby, and I'm here with Collin. And what up, Collin? I like that salute. Couldn't move on from the salute too quickly. And then we are also here with Dr. Carly Oberbeck,
hey.
Physical therapist and pelvic health specialist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. We're super excited to hear all about what you do
Awesome.
and have you share with us. But before we do that, let's get into the basket of debate. Our OG basket of debate, everyone's favorite. I think some people probably listen to us just for this.
Can't blame them.
Yeah, you can't blame them. I mean, I do this just for this. Just kidding.
That was easy. I just had to say this one too. At first, I was a little worried, but never mind.
All right,
Would you rather go 1 year without Wi-Fi or 1 month without hot water?
Oh, what do you
water.
think?
Yeah, I was like, hot water. I'm
Could
pretty
you imagine
sure.
the frustration of a year without Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 month it said without
1
hot
month.
water?
Yeah, ain't nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you change that to like a year.
I think you get so used to it after like a
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
you'd be like, whatever.
Yeah. My
Cold
husband
shower
takes
gang.
cold showers, but I cannot. I can't. I always have to change
Is it
that
like-
dial back.
Does he do it just like for the mental or he actually loves it?
I think it's, for like the mental. I got him a cold plunge that is like not like one that stays alone, but one of the ones you can break down and put back in. And it's just, they become more of a pain and hassle. So I think he just took the easy way out of taking a cold shower and I guess getting the job done that way. So
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, I lived in Africa for 5 months and we didn't have hot water. But it was really hot there. So like you definitely like wanted a cold shower.
Mhm.
But I would say I would pick the shower just because it's 1 month.
Yeah.
And a year without Wi-Fi would be very frustrating, like you said.
It's so annoying.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do my job
True.
like the way that I do it, at least. So,
Yeah. We'd have
Good
to
point.
change that up. Like, could you live a year without Wi-Fi and also be on a yacht in the Mediterranean? Like, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah. With
right.
no, like,
yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
That might change the answer to that question.
Yes. When I went on a cruise for the first time, I was like, we didn't get the Wi-Fi package. And I was like, this is amazing.
That was great.
So
Yeah.
disconnected. So you're right. If you switched it a little bit,
Yeah.
then maybe I would change my answer. Yeah. All right. What do you got, Carly?
Okay. Is it worse to forget someone's birthday or to enthusiastically wish them a happy one
Oh, no.
on the wrong day? I think it's to forget.
Man. I don't
Isn't
know.
doing
I'm
it on
really
the wrong
thinking
day
about
also forgetting it?
Yeah. I think I would feel worse about probably the embarrassment of like wishing somebody a happy birthday on the wrong day because I feel like I still got it wrong.
Yeah. And now you're
And now I'm embarrassed.
But then the person might feel like you forgot them and you never have an opportunity to right that wrong.
You do sometimes
That's
get a
true.
free dessert when you do that, though.
Wait, what?
You do sometimes get a free dessert when you do that.
Oh, yeah. Like at
know?
the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, boom.
It's so-and-so's birthday and then you get a flan in your face.
That is very enthusiastic too.
See?
They never bring it out
No.
like slide it onto your table. It's with like bells and whistles and
That would be an enthusiastic birthday.
yeah.
I wouldn't complain about that. I'd be
Yeah.
like, thank you for the free flan.
These all need a couple asterisks behind them.
Yes, yeah. Like options. Okay, let's see what we got. I haven't read mine yet, so no clue what I'm getting. Would you rather always have your food too salty or too bland? I think too bland. My husband will put too much salt on things sometimes, and it's like if it's too salty, you can't eat it, in my opinion.
Yeah, same.
Agreed.
And food tastes like way better with salt, but it tastes
Yeah.
good either way, to me.
At least it's tolerable.
Mm-hmm.
You can force
You
it
can
down.
get used to liking stuff when it's bland.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You can
And
wrap
like
your mind around
you don't need salt on everything. Like watermelon, I mean, you could put salt on it. So
I've
do y'all
never
do
got
that?
I've never
Ice
understood why
cream.
that's a thing.
I guess some salty ice cream. Like
Yeah.
something sweet also. Asterisk, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Come on, Terry.
Changes it.
Terry.
Ezra's making them now.
He's a byproduct of
So-
Terry, so we're gonna have to.
You listening,
Still comes
Ezra?
back.
Okay, well, good basket of debate.
Yes.
We will get some asterisks on these next time. So tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so I am
Give us like a summary.
Yeah, let's see. So pelvic floor physical therapist. I own my practice called East Nashville Pelvic Health, which is located in East Nashville,
Okay.
in Inglewood specifically. And I, again, specialize in pelvic floor PT for women. The only diagnoses or patients I don't treat are pediatrics and male, although men and kids have pelvic floors and they have pelvic floor dysfunction. But I would say with a particular emphasis on like the perinatal time frame, so usually pregnancy, postpartum, and that's also just generally when people realize they have their pelvic floor and when what it's all about.
Yeah.
But I think, I also bookend those experiences with people who have not had kids, and obviously people later in life into menopause, perimenopause time frame, and beyond. So yeah, really anyone who's dealing with pelvic health concerns.
Okay.
As a female. Yeah.
What led you to specifically specializing in pelvic health?
So I have always had an interest in it. What I think maybe people don't know, or maybe they do, is pelvic health does not have a lot of, we didn't learn about it a lot in any of our general physical therapy graduate school. We had, I think I was lucky enough in that time to have taken an elective. So not everybody in my class, I took like an elective 1-week course on pelvic health. But it was like at the very end, I was on a trajectory to moving into, I started out in like the neuro PT world. So I got, I was influenced to become a PT in general because my older sister was in a car accident back when I was in grade school and had a spinal cord injury and was in a wheelchair and went through rehab. So I didn't have the traditional athlete injury kind of pathway that a lot of PTs do. So, but all that to say, went in it with an open mind, and I'm like, I could do anything. But I was like, neuro's kind of where it's at, until I had that one course, and I'm like, this is very interesting. I didn't have time to flip it though, or wrap my head around moving that way. So went into the neuro specialty, but would talk to my other friends that did go into pelvic health, and I'm like, hey, tell me about it. Because, in my mind, it was also pelvic, they call it ortho PT in a cave, just treating the pelvic floor. I should have brought my pelvis. I can't believe I didn't. Wow, that was a mistake on my part. But they were like, Carly, it's great. Honestly, these women, it was called women's health back then, have great outcomes. They're coming to you with very personal conditions that they want treated. There's sometimes we're now their last resort because they've seen all these specialists and aren't getting better. If you know anything about outpatient PT world and chronic pain and things like that, those are really hard patients, and the progress and the way they typically are quote unquote non-compliant, So that was my view of both outpatient, and then so I had a different view of what pelvic health could be, and I was like, that sounds really cool. Still in neuro PT, it's okay though. And then had my daughter now 3 years ago, and again, like I said before, it kind of highlights pelvic floor issues. I think anyone who is pregnant and has any sort of orthopedic concern would do best to go see a pelvic floor PT. I would say that's my only drawback from being pregnant. I don't know if I was a little stubborn or what it was, but I tried to kind of rehab myself with whatever knowledge. I had some general low back pain. All that to say, and looking back, I would do things differently because we can be involved in birth prep, and we can talk a little bit about that later. So it's not just managing aches and pains in pregnancy, although I had them, and then postpartum, again, did seek out pelvic floor PT for my own. I had a grade 2 perineal tear, which we can talk about, which is a pelvic floor birth injury that I wanted to have rehabbed and addressed, and we did that. But what ultimately, because even after that, I was like, no, not for me. I don't think I want to do pelvic floor PT. But 9 months later, I had given myself a lot of grace, if you will. I had a very hard time with the infant stage, which a lot of us do. At the end of the day, my daughter was colicky. For anyone who knows what that means, she just cried a lot, many hours of the day for many weeks, and to the extreme. So all that to say, I didn't have time to prioritize myself either. So, but I don't look back at that with a negative thought. And I was so I started to pick up on walking and doing, and then slowly around 9 months, I'm I think I could get back into, I was a runner. I would do like high intensity interval training, stuff like that. And I'm like, I'll modify it down. I like know what I'm doing. But I just left those workouts, even like modifying for step ups instead of box jumps and step back plank, planks instead of burpees, like all that was happening. But I like, and my body just felt like broken is the only word I can like describe it. And then having some 9-month pelvic floor issues that I had just like reared its ugly head. I was like, gosh, I thought I fixed this or got on top of it, like stayed up early on, like I was early to the game with like getting that taken care of at 6 weeks. So all that to say, I kind of like broke it down and just did like full body like progressive overload resistance training without like before I did HIIT or like jumping, running, things like that. And just followed protocols that we all should and that I even knew at the same time, but I just thought I was in the clear. And so and then on top of like with some breathing specific treatment and other things from pelvic health standpoint, I think the combination of both of those though really set, like I felt better than I had been ever. And I was 37 years old with a 1.5-year-old and I had been working out in my 20s and running full marathons. I like PR'd my sub 4 marathon when I was like 33, but I felt awful. Yeah. I was like, for sure didn't train the way I needed to. Luckily, I think nowadays, I feel so old, you have like so much more information for better, for worse, but I think there's a lot more. Anyways, to get into the weeds, I'm answering your question. There's a lot more, evidence to like resistance train and stay and, not wear your body down, and the importance of sleep and rest and nutrition and all the things I was not doing in my late 20s, early 30s that I was doing postpartum. So it not only just made my pelvic floor symptoms better, it just made me feel better. And then when I did start running, those runs felt better than like any training run I did in my early 30s. And I was like, there's something to this. And I do think there has been this like gap in pelvic floor PT or pelvic health and exercise that we need to fix. And we know the body. Yeah. Like, so all that being said, to like summarize this up, I started to get all the education that I needed to from a pelvic health standpoint, taking all that extra coursework, because you do and should take that coursework. And then my first intro into this was creating a postpartum, return to strength and exercise group for new moms. And that kind of took off in a way that was really special. It's been sold out, each time I offer it, like ever since I started it. And like, when it is sold out, I kind of get wait lists going. So it was very clear that like there was this gap in what people were told to, go tell you want to get to exercise. Well, go talk to your pelvic floor PT. And your pelvic floor PT was like graduating you from pelvic floor being better, but then not giving you any guidance on exercise. And I wouldn't say it's everybody, but I would say that there, clearly was that gap. And then at the same time, so it was like 2021, I think we were still on the heels of COVID. So like everyone had these online programs, which is great. Like when they're done well, they have tons of information in them. They are progressive, but even then, like even with my knowledge, I was like, I can barely get a newly postpartum mom to like properly engage your core and do a posterior pelvic tilt. Now there's more to rehabbing your wall than that, but I just knew, I was like, this is hard for a lot of people. And like I bought a few of them. It was like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, like some were too much, some were too little, and I knew how to modify it, but I don't know, I just thought it was hard. And people, I think, were also craving connection, both post-COVID but also postpartum. Like we want that. So it just really like checked so many boxes.
Things that you had experienced. Yeah. And you're like, there needs to be more knowledge for other women too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Accessible, because it seems challenging to, I feel like it's challenging to know about. Like I'm around this conversation more than ever because of the group fitness gym that I work at. Yeah. It's just hearing other women talk about their own experiences. And I haven't had any children yet. And yeah, I feel like I haven't ever really thought about my pelvic floor before. I know. And now I'm like, what do I need to do like to prepare? So that makes sense that you would have that experience and then take that and go that way with it.
Yeah, it's been really great. And then I did that we converted my garage into like a gym treatment space. And then I also do one-on-one pelvic floor PT for, symptom, based presentations or birth prep. Again, I think the other thing I'm really passionate about is like just pelvic health, but just like health in general is getting out of this. I'm injured, I'm sick, I'm going to go see someone to get better and like stay ahead of the game. So that's a lot of times when I talked about birth prep, I touched on it a little bit. I was like, you don't have to come see me when you're having debilitating pubic symphysis pain. Like, see me before. Let's get exercises put into place that help build strength. And like, we can just, we've seen so many pregnant women that kind of present in a certain way. Like, there's no reason to preemptively give you certain exercises to mitigate the risk of developing these symptoms. And ideally that we're doing that ahead of time. And, pregnancy is never going to be void of issues and pain. But I also want to rewrite the narrative. I think a lot of people are doing it, luckily, in our field, that you don't have to live with this pain and just wear a brace and continue to pee your pants and push through. And it's just either part of the package. It'll get better after you have a baby, or you don't have a baby, to your point. And we can get to some of the statistics that are just so surprising on top of it. But urinary incontinence when you're exercising doesn't get brought up, or people, because they're embarrassed to bring it up, and they maybe have brought it up to certain providers who don't, and they're just don't know how to find the support, and or well, if it's not all the time, or maybe it's not that bad. And I'm the level of symptom bother does not have to drive your desire to go get care.
Oh, preach.
Which is I don't know. I could shout it from the rooftops, because when you realize everything just from a pelvic health standpoint that could be better, constipation, pelvic pain, urinary incontinence, period pain, that you just deal with and you're always trying to fix it. Or maybe you're just, again, fall in this category of you've either given up or you don't bring it up. When you realize your level of symptom bother is I feel it, or my period pain's only one day a month. I'm there is a world where you live with 0 out of 10 pain. Shouldn't we all strive for that? I don't know.
For the listeners, can we tell us more about why pelvic floor health? What does it affect? How is it affecting women? For me, who hasn't experienced, don't think about my pelvic floor. I'm 28, getting into that time where a lot of my friends are having babies. It's starting to be a conversation. I hear about it with them in the gym. How does it affect us, and why should we know more about it, and what should we do?
Yeah. So the array of symptoms, the menu of symptoms that can be coming from your pelvic floor, I'm going to put it in quotes, are many. Some of the very traditional ones: urinary incontinence, pain with intercourse, or really any pelvic pain with insertion. So that's gynecological exams, putting in tampons, things like that. Tailbone pain. God, I cannot believe I didn't bring my pelvis, because your tailbone is part of your pelvic floor. There are hip muscles that live in the pelvic bowl that we can access that also feed off of tension in the pelvic floor. The list goes on, but those are kind of the heavy hitters, I will say. And then obviously perineal injury during childbirth is something that's very common. So, why do we care about it? I think because again, what I spoke to before is there is a life that is symptom-free of pelvic floor dysfunction. And women who do experience pelvic floor dysfunction have an increased rate of mental health concerns, depression over, am I always going to pee my pants? Is this going to be the norm? Am I never going to have pain-free sex? Can I even get pregnant? So from a mental health standpoint, that's pretty alarming. Also, the number of women who leave or modify sport and activity because of pelvic floor dysfunction. So not to mention, there's nothing wrong with doing a low to moderate or lower intensity workout. But if you're choosing it on your own accord, or if you're doing it because you think there's no other way to get around pelvic floor symptoms. And then not to mention the deconditioning that starts with, whether it's in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, setting you up for failure potentially in your aging life because you're not getting any stronger, you know, and you're not keeping your cardiovascular fitness up, all those things. So I think that's a little bit about why it's so important to address pelvic floor symptoms on top of just the obvious not peeing your pants or things like that. Yeah.
I think a lot of people wouldn't think about it, those like symptoms coming from their pelvic floor too. Like, I mean, my mom had taught me, well, I don't think she knows either. Like, she has never talked to me about anything pelvic floor before. So it's becoming more, I feel like we're becoming more aware, and knowledge is becoming more accessible, obviously, to these things. But to know that you can have freedom from things that inhibit you, I guess. From your goals or reaching like your ultimate potential. Is awesome. I went to a physical therapist recently, or I think she like chiropractic person, and I was having something with like a muscle, and I was like, I think I need to rest it. Or I said something like, when I'm rest, it's fine. So I probably should just stop doing so much. And she was like, actually, because I was training for high rocks and playing softball at the same time. I was like, I just probably should do less. And she's like, actually, don't like, yes, if you rest, you will feel better, but it doesn't actually fix. Like, you can have freedom from. There is a root issue that you can work on things to fix, and you don't have to just rest. But that would be like what I thought would be the most effective. Just take more rest, you know? And maybe sometimes that is appropriate, but I was like, oh, okay, there are things I can do. I don't have to limit myself.
When like, I think another thing, I already like this person. I don't know who they are, but I think they're great.
Same.
I also strive to keep people as active as they can in spite of symptoms or injury. So, for example, if you are symptomatic from like running, for example, I have a couple runners that I'm treating who get either urinary incontinence or some sort of hip pain during running. And I kind of think it's like, stay below your symptom threshold, either with the sport that you're involved in. Modify lifts if the specific lift is causing you problems. Like if snatches make your shoulder feel funky, go to the gym and continue to do deadlifts and, you know, whatever, and pick up whatever weight you can. Maintain what you can, rehab through your injury, and then get through it versus like taking a full rest. Now, there is some component of, I don't only look at injury though. There is a whole person to look at. So to your point where you're like, I need to rest, like that sounds like a lot of exercise, right? Are you staying on top of sleep, nutrition,
stress management,
all those things, mental health? So like if you're taking away a component, it just has to be for the right reason and not for the wrong one.
That makes
and that's
sense.
like both with an athlete or with a postpartum or pregnant mom. I'm like, you want to run so bad. I know you do. And I want you to. Like, I'm a movement. I want you to move. But there's like a stepwise fashion we can approach to this. And like, if running's not going to give you, like, can this other thing give you some benefit for your mental health and well-being? Because that's often what's driving a lot of that early postpartum exercise, which I'm still a fan of. I just think we need to approach it with thought.
That's how we did my wife's return after her baby, because it's like that time period. It's like, hey, like the intensity of what we're going to do now is to scale what you'll do in 2 years. And like when they can get that switch, because I've worked with a ton of moms with that, and it's just like, hey, like this hemi bridge with breath work is literally the equivalent of your deadlift in a year. Like it's the same scale for you right now, and when they can make that, it's like cool. But it's hard because people are just like, I'm ready to go. Like,
I know. Well, and I'm here to also say, which is good that someone's working personalized with someone, because again, all these programs that are just not specific, like the research out there now is also, it is so personalized. It should take into fact if you're nursing, you know, breastfeeding, talk about the nutrition and hydration, sleep needs that you need if you're also nursing through the night, your support system, like your mental health. And again, exercise is good for your mental health, but we just need to find the right exercise. And like, it shouldn't be demonized, but it also shouldn't be glorified to like exercise early postpartum, if that makes sense too, because we're seeing a lot of elite level athletes like returning to sport and exercise.
Who was it in that CrossFit that just did it? It was like 6 weeks. She was really close.
Was it Tia?
Tia, yeah,
that
Tia,
one.
I think, yeah.
I wish I knew more of her story, but I know that she has returned quickly.
It was
and
insane.
There's even like long distance runners who are like, you know, pumping during their run and thing like that, like very close postpartum.
Amazing.
And, you know, that's why it is individualized, is that, and we also don't know that person's story either. Yeah. Like, they're not going to shout from the rooftops if they're having prolapse symptoms or like whatever, nor do they need to. I mean, they have some level of influence, so there should be some transparency, but they also probably have a team of people taking care of their baby, you know, making their meals. Like, how many people don't have that?
Most.
Yeah.
So with the way that the whole postpartum system is via just like standard of care right now is your OB see for like 6 minutes maybe at each checkup minus like whatever, and then the postpartum time period, that 6-week checkup is a joke. How do you think we get that to change? Because like we work with a girl up in Indianapolis, and she has a whole like postpartum care thing, like to do the lab work to help like, and they do stuff like via like nutrition, supplement coaching, because like there's nothing there after that. After you have the baby, they're just like, cool. You kind of might know how to breastfeed. You kind of have like you should know how to take care of this baby and yourself because you're a human being. Like that's essentially what it is. Yeah. So how do you think we go about changing that? Because that's such a you guys are really left on your own, and it's like you said, it's hard to find the right information out there that's like quality, that is actual quality, and it's not just someone just throwing like a weekend course up there.
Yeah, and it's tough. So 2 things, I think, getting your knowledge about what postpartum is going to be like in pregnancy. So that's why birth prep, I think, is a thing that I, you know, kind of tout as not being just about birth, not being just about ailments during pregnancy. It's setting you up for success postpartum. So whether that be knowing what your body is going to go through, what physical changes, or like how you can and should move your body both to support your postpartum recovery experience. So prenatally, I think, would be the right place to start, ideally. Let's just say we blow past prenatal, then we have our baby, and that checkup is at 6 weeks. And I think the current recommendation is actually that they should be seen before that 6 week mark. But number one, the system is like overloaded. Like they'd have to probably hire more people to like get that extra appointment in for everyone that they see. And how would we speak to like the quality of that appointment if the 6 week appointment's only 7 minutes long? What are they getting done at 7 minutes? Like ideally they would just add more to it. They being like the medical system, like the insurance-based providers, like your OBs and midwives and things like that. Because I think all the providers that are kind of working outside of the healthcare system, like traditionally, are taking that time.
Right.
So, for example, again, I see my moms prenatally, and coming mostly from a pelvic floor standpoint, but I will also give them resources and education on who to see for if we suspect like more like lab work issues or whatever, both at any appointment, but setting them up with some resources. And then I usually say, when everyone's like, when should I see you postpartum? Like, I just want you to know. I want you to rethink like when you would like to be seen postpartum and understand what you're going to get out of those appointments. So I'll educate them. Like, but I do say around 2 to 4 weeks or even earlier is fine. Just understand that we're not going to be doing intravaginal assessment, which is where we assess the pelvic floor muscles, you know, until you do get that clearance, just risk of infection, things like that. But what we also touch on is, if we haven't already addressed it prenatally, is how to move your body, how to start healing your body. Like, is it appropriate to do Kegels? What do those look like? How many should you do? What do we do with your abdominal wall? Are you allowed to do crunches? Well, you might be, but someone with a grade 4 perineal tear, cesarean delivery, like they would have different precautions and indications, but still would need an in-person assessment, in my opinion, to really dose that appropriately. Yeah. But it's appropriate to dose that early because you're actively healing. That does not mean you should rest. Like, your body actually, again, we want to be thoughtful and be as active as possible as we can be in spite of injury and
still load management.
Yes. Yeah. And so, again, so that 2 to 4 week visit is where, like, I think we would come in as pelvic floor PTs. I also say, you know, I liken it to, I'm like, we don't treat just your pelvis. Like, we can get out of that pelvis. Like, let's treat your back. Do you have like neck pain, which everyone does? Do you have back pain? Everyone does. Like, we can dry needle things. Like, would you wait to get a massage until 6 weeks? No. Yeah. Like, you know, I think there's just a difference. So just as long as like you're setting the stage for like the expectation. Now, I am a provider that is cash-based, meaning I don't, I'm not in network with insurance companies. So you pay me with cash, you can get reimbursed by your out-of-network benefits. So I have like a luxury of like, I think, and also not working within a hospital system or a big company where there's protocols and things, or they just say, we won't see you, and like, we're not going to see you until after 6 weeks. So I can kind of step outside of that. So, I mean, ideally everyone would have access to that, but that's how we would bridge the gap, I guess. And, you know, I think the providers that care will also try to provide as much, as we hate social media, but like information over social media, like those courses that exist, like they're not bad. Now, I think they should have a heavy asterisk of like, this isn't for everybody. And, you know, but who's going to try and sell your course and be like, buy this course, but just know it may not work for you. Like that would be hard. So the marketing's really hard for a very vulnerable population, in my opinion. Not to say that it's wrong. So I've probably gotten in the weeds because I can talk too much. But
this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
Keep talking. We want to know.
So so prenatally, and then I would say before that 6 weeks. And then I would say, I mean, you know, the jury is out on like if we, you know, in different countries there is automatic referrals to pelvic floor PT postpartum, which is great. But then we think about like putting that into the American system of not having family support, childcare, going back to work, things like that. And then to be like, this is the standard of care, but most of you probably won't be able to maintain these, continue with it. So again, it's a fine line of, but would I wish for everyone to see a pelvic floor PT postpartum? Yes. And do I think they would all get benefit from it? Yes. And do I think it's an overutilization of services? No. Like information and education can't be. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I think it's like for me, I feel like it's such a area where I need guidance in, you know, like I feel like I can go. Well, I mean, I am a personal trainer. Like I can go, but even before I go to the gym and I can lift weights, but to know how to connect to my pelvic floor or to like brace my core, that stuff is way more challenging in my opinion. We had a pelvic floor specialist come to our gym and do a little workshop with the women, and she just had us like lay on our backs and practice bracing and then breathing through it. And I was like, I don't think I've ever done this in my life. I don't think I have once, like, and I've like thought that I've engaged my core when you're doing compound lifts and whatever. But when I did that workshop, I was like, I have never done this before. Yeah. And I was like, I think I need practice to even to like feel like I'm doing this right. Like it was almost like, I don't even know how to do it, even though you're telling me, you're guiding me. So, and it did take a lot of practice. And I feel like I got a lot from it, and I have practiced, but I feel like it's something that you need guidance in.
Well, and that's why that postpartum foundations class that I have, or any one that I see postpartum when we're doing return to run or fitness or activity, 9 times out of 10, someone said, almost everyone's like, I can't focus on breathing and connecting with my pelvic floor. Like, this is hard. And then actually you want me to also lift and count my reps. I'm like, let's focus on one thing at a time, especially a postpartum mom brain. But they're all like, I've never lifted like this. And I'm like, you know, like, is it wrong for you to have lifted your whole life the way maybe you were before you were taught by a pelvic floor PT? The answer is potentially no. When is it? But you're probably setting yourself up for success to learn these techniques now to avoid later in life risk of like start to experience maybe like urinary incontinence, leakage, even without being pregnant. But then definitely in that season, there are ways that you can shift, you know, in that same breath. Nothing should be contraindicated in pregnancy in the sense of like lifting. We modify whenever we start to become symptomatic or our belly gets in the way. You know, like those two things are like what should guide. And then if like outside of like very scarier symptoms of like increased blood pressure, fatigue, dehydration, overheating, things like all the things where you'll feel like systematically like out of like don't push the limits there. And then this is all coming from like the American College of whatever, ACOG of obstetrics and gynecology. Their recommendations again across the board for pregnancy is to maintain or start some level of exercise, and pregnancy is safe and recommended to, and it's like even moderate levels of activity. So where was I going with this? So learning to brace postpartum and then learning to brace in pregnancy. Again, I like what you said, but I also don't want to like be too fear inducing. Like if I did it forever, it would just like ruin my pelvic floor and I'm destroyed. I think you've gotten a lot of knowledge for like, again, set you up for success in those seasons for sure.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about the events that you do and how a lot of women can come, and they're sold out a lot of times. There's a wait list. I want to hear more about those after we take a quick little break.
Okay.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Carly Oberbeck, and she has been sharing so much about pelvic floor health and all things PT. But you were talking about some events and things that people can come to get some of this information that you're sharing. What are some of those? I know you just completed a couple. You have something coming up in September, you said.
Yeah, so I think I try to, one of the, I guess, like arms of my services are to like educate the public about pelvic floor health, which is why I'm here. So I'll put on various like workshops or try to, plant myself in certain events that people can start learning about it, or at least get exposure. They see a big sign that says East Nashville Pelvic Health, urinary leakage, they can kind of associate with it. Usually they walk by and they're like, and then they'll come back to the table. They're a little hesitant because it's like very like touchy subjects, or they see a pelvis and a vulva staring them in the face. So normalizing it in that sense. So, I guess recently I've been and probably will now start to always do the Tomato 5K, which is a run in East Nashville put on by the Margaret Maddox YMCA. And they do a really good job of like creating a big community event around that. And I got like 30 moms who are like postpartum at different stages to kind of train up to that. And that was really cool. And then I had like a booth there. So a handful of us ran it together. My husband manned my women's health pelvic floor PT booth. And he's like, I've been cracking jokes all day. And I'm like, I can only imagine. So, but it was good. Amazing. It went really well. And then I was at the Flourish Wellness Expo, which is, this was their first event year that they did it, where they kind of got a lot of health and wellness providers together. And I think they're going to start doing it yearly to both just present themselves to anyone who comes, so you can learn about everyone in your area that can help you in like pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood.
That's so helpful.
And talked on a panel there. But I guess my staple ones that are always in the works are, I have a postpartum rehab and strength group. So it's kind of like a cohort that I run throughout the year. And it's for postpartum moms of, really any stage of recovery. So I've had some people join me at like 4 and 5 weeks postpartum. And then I had one mom who was 7 years postpartum, because it's really appropriate to kind of learn the basics. But the term we use is like reconnecting with your core and pelvic floor, which never made sense to me until I had a baby. Because I was like, what do you mean reconnecting? Like it's there. They didn't disconnect from your body. But, it's different. But then quickly building our strength together, because motherhood is hard. A very famous pelvic PT in our field said motherhood is hard, motherhood deconditioned is harder. So if you can imagine keeping up with your toddlers and picking your 10-pound baby and on and off the floor, getting on and off the floor, that can be really hard. So there's no reason to delay like getting stronger. So and it's just been really sweet, because we meet twice a week for 6 weeks at my gym studio in East Nashville, and then they can bring their babies. And then I think at the end, the benefit that most of them kind of say is like, it was so nice to get out of the house. It was so nice I could bring my baby. It was so nice to meet other moms. I'm like, well, did you also feel stronger? And then they do. They're like, and then I think strength gains and education on their bodies is, so all of that kind of happens within that 6 week like kind of cohort. I have people take it a couple times in a row, because the beauty of resistance training is you just make it harder by picking up heavier weight or doing more reps. And so they kind of stayed with that program and did it 2, maybe 3 times sometimes. So that's happens throughout the year, and I'll either post it on my social media, or it kind of lives on my website as well, where you can always sign up for the next date. The next one I think is in September, and I have one in October, and those are the last 2 of 2025. Okay. So September, I know. Yeah. I feel like it's Christmas like tomorrow. Yeah. September 8th, I think, is the next one. And there's one spot left. So if anyone wants, I don't know when this podcast is coming out. And then I also, so on the note of like educating, I do through the library, like public library system, specifically at Madison, once a month I'll either do a pelvic floor birth prep specific kind of workshop, and then I'll flip-flop that usually with a postpartum specific one. So it's free to you guys to come to. And again, you can sign up through my website. Usually you can just show up. Traditionally it hasn't like sold out yet. There's no tickets or anything. It just might get a little cozy in these rooms if we have too many people. But just to prepare for birth from a pelvic floor standpoint, recover from birth from a pelvic floor standpoint. So which I think a lot of moms are like wish. So that's, again, free. Maybe you can dip your toes into what pelvic floor PT is like. And then I will also just try to host workshops throughout the year. So I usually host one at like the East Nashville YMCA, because that's where I'm located. And we just do like more of an educational, like what is pelvic floor PT, because it's not just pregnancy and postpartum. It is everything. And that one actually was really nice. I did it last November and had a lot of like 20-something-year-old women who never had kids, but all had experienced symptoms, because you don't have to have a kid or be pregnant to have pelvic floor dysfunction.
Tell us about that. Yeah. So people who are women who, not just middle-aged women, not just ones who finished or just had a baby. Yeah. You're saying women in their 20s even experiencing some of the symptoms.
I mean, 20s and teens. So, statistically, like around 25%. So like upwards of like 1 in 4 women athletes usually that are doing exercise can experience urinary leakage or incontinence with sport. And that's typically like your higher level, like jumping, bounding, running. So like gymnasts, like basketball players, and a lot of running sports. So, and tennis. So you can imagine like kind of stopping and bracing and things like that. Yeah. There's also been studies where women who aren't athletes have pelvic floor dysfunction, and upwards of, again, like 30% of them have one pelvic floor symptom, and then a lesser percent but have 2 to 3 symptoms. And it's interesting because the rate of symptom bother of those, like everyone was more bothered by urinary incontinence, obviously, and but less. Their rate of symptom bothered was less with things like constipation and pain with sex. And I was like, this is interesting. I wonder why. And when you kind of think about it, I think there was like a follow-up question is like women's desire to please their partners is higher than their desire to be pleasure during that experience, which is why they just rate it lower on their symptom level. And that, there's definitely varying degrees of like pain with intercourse. So that's not to say that they had, not to get in the weeds there, but like debilitating pain during sex. Maybe it was just a level of discomfort though, but like they weren't too concerned about it. Like to seek out care, or maybe they did bring it up. And then constipation too, I think it's just like, they also are like young, right? Like you're high school, in college, like who's talking about it with anybody? Right, and then if you are bringing it up, like are you being dismissed by providers and things like that? And if you bring it up once, are you going to bring it up again? Like usually not. One person with a degree is going to tell you it's okay, and you're going to stop asking questions. And I think that's kind of unfortunate. So we don't know, that's why I always say, like, don't let the level of symptom bother, like, drive your desire to get better. Good. Like, even if you have a 1 or 2 pain with sex, like, guess what? It can and should be, unless you want to experience pain with sex. It's a different type of thing. It should not be that way. So, but then, and again, I think there's seasons of pelvic health that should be noted. There is, again, high school, college age, early 20s, or, basically like once you get your period on, and then there should be some sort of like check-in with a pelvic health specialist. Like you start to see a gynecologist usually in that time frame too, but let's go see someone who's going to spend more of like an hour of their time, like explaining why you're having pain with your period and how you can get, symptom relief from that. Obviously, we talked a lot about pregnancy and postpartum, which I don't think anyone needs to like learn more about why it's necessary in that season. But then you get into perimenopause, menopause, and then even older age. Like the statistics that I said and mentioned in younger women obviously just get more. And, there's upwards of like, again, like 50 to 70% of like women in nursing homes are having urinary incontinence and things like that. And like, how fixable is it? Like, how can we intervene? There's a lot we can do. And I think it's just the norm, so it just continues until now. I think we're stopping it. Yeah.
So what would you say is like one of the bigger myths around pelvic floor stuff, maybe like dysrecti, or like the time frame that postpartum is? Because people are like, oh, it's only like 6 weeks, when we know it's way longer than that.
Those are great questions. And I think we could have like an hour-long podcast about diastasis recti. You can like literally not mispronounce it. It's pronounced different ways all the time. I say diastasis.
Say the same one.
So I think a misconception is that something a woman has done has like caused their diastasis. So this is also putting it in the frame of like the perinatal, like pregnancy, postpartum time frame, because you can have ab separation for other reasons. But, the misconception is that you should start to modify or don't do crunches or don't load that abdominal wall because you're going to stress your core too much. And if you see doming and coning in pregnancy, like just basically stop. When the newer research that's coming out is like, why would you want your muscles that are already being maxed, by spreading, why would you want them to be deconditioned when those are the exact muscles we want to come on board postpartum quickly to like bring that abdominal wall back together? And then also, not to mention, there is actually no research that says if you see doming and coning that's causing diastasis. And then at the end of the day, someone who's pregnant, who has a growing belly, we have different anatomy, but like at least at the end of the day, you're going to have a separation, a stretching of that linea alba, the like muscle or the tissue in between those recti muscles, no matter what, by the end of pregnancy, like upwards of like 90 to 100% of them. The jury's out, statistics are not there, but that's going to happen. And so that's one thing that's like a misconception. It's also like a fairly dangerous one, not only to promote sedentary behavior during pregnancy, but also to then have a mom beat herself up about maybe something she did or didn't do in pregnancy to have caused a separation, which also at the end of the day may not have anything to do with pelvic floor symptoms or back pain, which is another misconception. So on that note, I think the follow-up that you had for that from like a postpartum healing standpoint, the other thing that research is promoting more so is that we should, again, be loading the entire abdominal wall I don't want to say like from day one, there is some like, I am a fan of like resting postpartum, but we don't need to only do deep core exercises or only load the abdominal wall in this like stacked position. Yeah. It's not always going to cause a closing of those rectus muscles, and B, it's not functional. We don't like live our lives like that. So, you know, once we do move out of like into those flexion extension patterns, those muscles are like not strong. So, you know, from a postpartum healing recovery time frame, the research actually is out there now that it has to be individualized. It has to be progressive, you know, from lower loads to higher loads. You don't jump right into like doing loaded snatches and running 10 miles. Like, we know that, but like there's a mental health component of like having benefit to movement, and so we don't want to discourage it either. So, but it's such a vulnerable time frame when everyone's healing is different, everyone's support system is different, everyone's babies are sleeping differently, they're breastfeeding, they're not. All the things that I've said makes a difference as to like how quickly you can get and progress with uninterrupted progress. I will also say, because we also know, like, let's return to sport and exercise. Oh, well, I started Carly's program and I got 3 weeks done, but then my baby had a sleep regression, and then I stopped working out for 3.5 weeks. And then they kind of like maybe pick up where they left off, or like just like blow past some of the, you know, easing back into it, because there's just, oh, well, I'm now 8 months postpartum. Of course, I'm like able to jump back into it. But you kind of have to like, you know, lay down the foundation, which is Postpartum Foundations is my class name for that reason, in order to, I don't want to say safely, but like safely.
It's like the old guys are like, oh, I benched in high school, I can go right back to it. I'm like, dude, it's been 25 years.
Yes.
So how do you, because I know some moms will feel a little bit of guilt of taking the time to do that for themselves because they're so concerned with the baby. Like, I don't have time to do this. Like, I got to take care of the baby. Like, I can worry about me later. Because I remember my wife, like the first like 2 weeks she was like, no. I was like, take the 20 minutes. You like, for you'll feel low. And of course, she felt loads better after like, you know, giving her. How do you help with the women that you work with get over that? Because I don't think that's talked about either. All that much.
I think luckily the women that come to me have that mindset. And I'm ideally seeing them beforehand, like laying that foundation, but also knowing, this is one thing that I also say, like, you can always get stronger too. So if you didn't, I don't want anyone to blame themselves. Be like, because all the time they're like, I missed the boat on pelvic floor PT. I missed the boat on this. You can always get stronger. But I think I had a hard time. And one of the messages is, I was like, well, exercise feels like a job. Like, I don't want to like do that. It doesn't feel like a break from my day. But if I looked at it more from like a rehab framework, like I did something amazing. My body changed over the course of 9 months, changed literally the opposite way overnight, and then cared for someone. Like, there are like no other injury, no other is like asked to put such a demand on your body that early. Like, so honoring what I said, like there's a time frame of rest. It's called the 5-5-5 rule, which I challenge to some degree, but it just means like keep yourself horizontal. Try to, for as much as you can, get up for your to go to the bathroom, things like that. Take care of yourself at the bare minimum. And then, but even if you can get 10 minutes of your day to like do those Kegels and like breath work and reconnect with your core early on, and just at least building the habit of like showing up for that minimal amount of time, like breaking it down into different chunks, and also understanding that it's not selfish. It's going to make you a better mom. You're going to be able to show up better for your family, for your baby. You can lift them out of your crib without pain. Like, think of all the benefits that you're going to get from that 20 minutes versus everything that's being taken away from you in that 20 minutes is like maybe a different like mindset shift that's better. Because the pendulum has swung from bounce back culture in like the 90s, 80s, whatever that was. I argue it's maybe even coming back, but to rest and do nothing for 6 weeks. And so there is, I think it needs to land in the middle, and it needs to be individualized. Like there's no more protocols for postpartum. There are guidelines, but not protocols, which is another thing that I think is helpful to consider.
Yeah. I love that you keep talking about, like you said a while ago, that you were looking at the whole person and that it is individual, because you can give like, all right, your top 5 tips to like bounce back.
Yeah.
Or your top 5 tips to prepare for birth in your pelvic floor. But then things happen. Like you talked about, okay, your baby has a sleep regression, then what? And so I feel like that gives people so much like freedom, I guess, to be able to work with somebody individually, and then you can help them with where they're at and what's happening in their life. It's not just like, do these things. Okay, well, I didn't get to do that, so now what? Like you can guide them and help them with what's the next step for you and where you're at.
Yeah.
That's so important and needed.
Yeah. Because it's not a timeline. Like postpartum recovery isn't a timeline, to your point. And then it also, one of the other things you said was, is it the first 6 weeks? No. Right. There's also like the 4th trimester, which is a little bit longer, like the 3 months afterwards. Like I think other cultures say like the 40 days postpartum are really important. So whatever number you want to put on it, you're postpartum for life, though. At the end of the day, like your body has changed. Like I think there's no way that you're going to have the same body postpartum. But we want to be healthy and strong and fit. And a lot of moms, I think, get hopefully now in that headspace of like being fit for our children. Like moms are also having babies older. So I remember doing the math, and I'm like, I'm going to be how old when my daughter's like 18? Like I hope I can like hike with her and walk with her. I'm not going to be that old. I'm not that old, guys. But like I still was like putting in like my grandkids. But like, you know, I want to be healthy from just longevity. So, but when you're in postpartum, you are just in the thick of it. And it's hard. It's hard to tease out, to your point, like, when am I not doing enough? When am I doing too much? When should I take time for myself? Who's going to watch the baby? I'm the only one that can watch the baby.
That support system is so key.
Yeah.
You've touched on that bunch, but that's huge.
Yeah. Which is also, again, not to like, so postpartum foundations, everyone can bring their baby with them, which I think is
so nice.
Yeah. I mean, they stop to breastfeed mid-workout, or, you know, the baby's crying and I'll hold them. Like, you know, they have that luxury, right, that I can provide that, which is nice. And you can do it at home with programs, and even me sending someone home with a program, but it's a lot harder. I mean, it's a lot harder to like, so just have that dedicated time is also really beneficial. But again, support is all.
Yeah. How old? You said your daughter was 3?
Yeah.
Do you guys talk about this kind of stuff yet? Like, does she know about her pelvic floor?
Well, yes, because I would say potty training is a lot. So from a pediatric pelvic floor PT standpoint, PT and OT, I should say, like, I will say all OTs are also really like beneficial in our field. So occupational therapy, but yeah, I teach her to kind of blow out the candles if she's going to have a bowel movement. Like that's like an important thing that we didn't talk about, but blow as you go. She's having trouble doing that, not holding her pee, things like that. So I think in a roundabout way, we're talking about pelvic floor, talking about using anatomical terms of lady parts and male parts, and like understanding boundaries around that, but also not being afraid to use those words, because like it is important. So I guess in those ways I'm like addressing pelvic floor stuff with her
in a 3-year-old way.
And like also didn't realize how fully prepared I am now for the birds and the bees talk. Like I got like, which I don't have my pelvis. I got a pelvis though. I got a vagina. Can I say vagina?
I think so.
And I'm like, it wouldn't bat an eye if she was like, Mommy, tell me more about this. I'd be like, okay. Age appropriate.
It's normalized.
Considered. Yeah, for sure. Which is helpful. Yeah.
I love that. Well, okay. So how can people tell us again your next event?
Okay.
One slot open for September, and the next one's October.
Ooh, October something.
How can people find you and then find upcoming things too?
Yeah. So my website, East Nashville Pelvic Health. I would say Instagram, social media, also East Nashville Pelvic Health, but at Dr. Carly Oberbeck, so Dr. Carly Oberbeck would be where I usually share more like tips and tricks and some personalized stories. So if you wanted to just learn a little bit more about me in general and parenting, sometimes I'll be on there. But then I will also usually share anything to both my Dr. Carly Oberbeck and East Nashville Pelvic Health. So, but Dr. Carly would encompass everything. And yeah, my next postpartum foundations is September 8th with one spot left. I want to say October 27th, which will be the last one, because then it butts right up to Christmas and holidays. So, and then the library classes also are going to be usually posted and pinned on top of my social media, and you can sign up through there. They are a wonderful, and I will just plug a little bit more about the library courses because it's not just me. They have a free breastfeeding course. They have some free infant CPR courses, which is like, those are at least going to be $50. And, you know, they're good information and wonderful providers, if I do say so myself. Yes. And then they'll follow you. They have like tummy time and some like, you know, infant crawlers. And it's through the Be Well group, like help support and like fund that program. But don't sleep on the library, on free library resources, because they're really great.
Yeah. I might have to sign up for one of those. You said those are pinned to the top of your Instagram.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing so much good knowledge with us. I feel like I learned so much and feel inspired to try to come to one of your events or work with you or something.
Yeah. I'm always down for a chat if anyone wants to.
Yeah.
I, like, if you can't tell, love talking about pelvic floor PT, so
yeah, I'm so interested. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Carly, for being here. If you guys loved this episode, then please like and subscribe on behalf of NFM and spread the positive. We really appreciate you tuning in and keeping up with us. Stay connected, stay strong, and we'll catch you on the next one.